How many warm, fuzzy chords do you know? I am super excited to share with you one of my favorite warm, fuzzy chords today in Dr. Doug's Daily Tips for How to Write Great LDS Church Music. And to help us do that, we're going to use a primary song, I Love to Pray, found on page 25b, the second half of page 25 in the Primary Children Songbook. So, I honestly don't think I've ever heard a primary sing this song, but it has one of my favorite warm, fuzzy chords in it, so that's a perfect little lesson for us today. Let me play this, only 8 measures long, and then we'll dig into the warm fuzziness. Okay, can you guess which chord I love? It's the one on Remember, right here. So we're in the key of F major, and on this second line, the composer highlights a chromatic chord, this chord right here, which is a D chord. In the key of F, the D chord is normally minor, but they turned it major, and when you do that, it makes it act as a dominant of something else. And in this case, the F sharp is the signal that this is the dominant of G, because F sharp is the leading tone to G. And that's just conversation for another day. It's secondary dominance. But I really want to focus on this G minor chord because it has something special in it. So as the tune comes down, always I remember. I love this little carryover of the A. So when we get the A in this measure, that A fits the chord. We're on a D7 chord, it's part of the chord. But when it carries over, it's now not part of the chord. However, it could be part of the chord. And this is why I like this so much. There's this thing that we call add tones. Add tones. An add tone is when you take a regular 3-note chord, a triad, and you add an additional note on top. So the first type of add tone, the most common, is a 7th, right? You take a D chord, let's say, D, F sharp, A, and you add a third above C. That's an add on to the triad. But then you can add another third above that. D, F sharp, A, C, E. That E is what we call a 9th. However, sometimes 9ths and non-chord tones get mixed up. Let me explain. So on this G minor chord, we have G, B flat, D, and then we get this A. It's like, where did the A come from? At first glance, it does not look like it fits the chord, because it doesn't. It's not part of the Snowmen, G, B flat, D. However, if you follow the logic that I just mentioned about add tones, and you take a normal G minor chord, G, B flat, D, and then you add a third above that, which would be F, and you add a third above F, which would be A. Sometimes you get this, what we call a minor chord with a 9th on it. Other times when this note appears, we wouldn't call it a 9th. But what's the difference? Why is it sometimes called a 9th and other times not called a 9th? It comes down to one thing. Whether or not that 9th resolves itself while the same chord is sounding. If the 9th resolves down by step, which it does in this case, it resolves down to the G, then we don't call it a 9th. We call it a suspension because it's suspended over from the previous chord and it appears on the downbeat and it's now a non-chord tone, but then it resolves down to the G. If it had not resolved, then we would call this G minor 9. Okay? Or in Roman numeral analysis, since we're in the key of F major. This would be a minor 2 with a 9 on it. But like I said, it does resolve. The A goes down to the G while the G chord is still sounding. Because of that, it's technically a suspension, not a ninth. But all of that aside, just listen to the sound of this chord. I want you to just hear the sound of this chord. Oh, yeah, you get the G minor, G, B flat, D, but then the A. It's like this certain kind of sadness, right? You know how major chords and minor chords are sort of the clear happy versus sad generally? Well, this is another color of sad. You can take a regular minor chord and add a note to it like this, a ninth above the base of the chord, and it gives it a certain flavor of sadness. Instead of just sad G minor, we get an ache in our G minor, which is so good. I love this ache. So that is a warm fuzzy chord that I want you to add to your repertoire of warm fuzzy chords. It still functions like a normal 2 chord, meaning that after you hear it, it's going to go to the 5, which it does. The C7 is the 5/7. Still functions the same way. It's just an add-on with this ninth that gives you this ache. And then it's up to you whether you want to resolve the ninth while the chord is still sounding, which is what happens in this song, or if you want to hold on to the ninth throughout the rhythm, the amount of beats that the chord is lasting. Up to you. But that is your gem today, the minor 9, taking a minor triad and adding a ninth on it. It works beautifully on the 2 chord. It also sometimes works really well on the 6 chord. But play with this one on the 2. So find a key that you're working in, whether it's C major or whatever. Go to the 2 chord, play that minor 2 chord, and then add a ninth above the bass and hear the ache and see if you can turn that into something special in your piece. Thanks for tuning in. Hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you get all the updates for when new videos post on YouTube. And if you'd like some more free tips, head on over to latterdaymusiversity.com where you can get a bunch more for free inside my 24-page report, The 10 Commandments of Writing Warm, Fuzzy LDS Church Music. See you next time.